afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Wednesday afternoon, Nvidia Wednesday. We should just call it Nens Day. Put a little N in there instead. So all eyes on the Nvidia earnings as they reported after hours today. Got to be honest, fairly shocked at the reaction to the numbers. There were many of you here who were saying blowout numbers. They're going to absolutely crush it. I was expressing a little bit of skepticism just off of partnerships that may be slowing down, like Supermicro Computer and other companies. Those numbers didn't come to fruition. It looked like just good news out there across the board. So I'm going to start with the numbers themselves. A couple of areas that I looked at that I thought were intriguing, at least from an opportunity perspective, and got to give a shout out to Larry Jacobson here and when we get to that point. But yes, this is AI's rendition of Jensen Huang. He's got his signature leather jacket. I really kind of wish he would just start his own leather jacket line because it seems like he wears that thing everywhere he goes. But maybe a little bit younger version. Maybe he dyed his hair in this AI, but I told AI, I go, put him on a big throne because he still is the king. And after today's action, I think you're going to see more upside movement in Nvidia. But what did the numbers say? Forget my opinions. Well, we'll start off with the baseline numbers. People talk about earnings per share. So they beat earnings by 6 cents. Not astronomical, but still a great. Anytime you beat expectations, especially the high end of the estimate, a very good sign for your company. Now, here's what I really liked. Revenue. $35.08 billion was their number. The estimate was $33.15 billion. And I heard someone say on some video I received, so I was on Twitter today, and I forgot who it was, but the guy was saying that the numbers were somewhat disappointing and showed slowing growth. And I should have written his name down because, hold on a second. Last year, in Q3 of 2023, they had roughly 15, get my numbers exactly right here, $18 billion worth of revenue last year. And here we are year over year. They've almost done 100% growth on that. They're at 93.6% year over year revenue beat. I don't know who in their right mind could ever say that is kind of disappointing. That is absolutely phenomenal. It's unsustainable. I think everybody here would say it's unsustainable. You're not going to have year-over-year growth of roughly 100%. That might last a couple of years, but that's certainly not something that's going to be sustainable for the next decade or 20 years or so. So keep in mind those numbers will change, but phenomenal revenue beat numbers as well as earnings per share. Now, before I get into the other details, I do want to bring up the chart. Here's NVIDIA after hours, and you can see a knee-jerk reaction to when that announcement came out it was bad, but it wasn't like appalling. Sometimes we get these huge swings down. Why are you not? Oh, my labels are off the screen. That's why. So initially it fell 5.67% in like a 60-second window. It just fell real quickly. And then I guess as people started reading through these numbers, now it's creeping back up. It's relatively unchanged. Right now in the after-hour session, we are only down 0.58% as we speak right now. I envision this gapping up tomorrow. I think it's just going to have a slow move up here. Again, as some of these numbers I'm going to read to you show pretty strong activity for the company. To me, there's only one major red flag, and that is supply, right? Can they deliver all of these chips that they've been promising? So let's go look at some of the other numbers just to kind of see what else they excelled in. So I thought this was a great one. Data center revenue. So data center revenue, they recorded $18.6 billion. That's a gain of 112% year over year. So obviously, if you're buying NVIDIA products, it makes sense to keep them at their data centers and have NVIDIA manage it all for you. Great. Yeah, data centers, huge pop to the upside here. Fantastic. Again, that's the Hopper platform. That's AI, large language models, and generative AI, which is absolutely booming right now. And I don't see that changing. I'm right now listening to an interview with Lex Friedman. And you guys might know Sam Altman, Sam Altman is the guy who started OpenAI, of course, with Elon Musk and several others. Now they're in lawsuits. But just the discussion of generative AI and large language models, what does it mean for the future, how they work, what is the structure of them, and where the opportunities lie. It's a great interview. I'm only like 45 minutes into this interview, and I really, really enjoy it. But I'll give you the update on that one. You can find that on Lex Friedman's podcast on YouTube. Great guest on this program. it's wonderful when you have connections. You can just bring on the A-listers of every industry. Pretty fantastic. So right now, the Hopper platform is what's really boosting that. We'll see what happens when they get to the Blackwell chip. Gaming was also an interesting one. Revenue is up 15% year over year. That's not amazing, right? That's still a decent number. I mean, 15% year over year growth. Of course, fueled by their GeForce RTX chips. I have an RTX platform here as well, which I'm running this show on, but mine's a little bit older. Here's the one I thought was probably the most interesting. I expected data centers to be off the charts. I expected their numbers to be pretty large, just, kind of jaw-dropping numbers. Automotive. So I didn't get the exact number. I didn't put the number down on here, but they had a 72% year-over-year growth in automotive, meaning interaction with self-driving cars. So if you go back to power trading radio shows, which I don't even know if they're still there. I think actually Trading Academy pulled those down because of compliance. They were worried I said something, or some of those shows may have contained things that the FTC may have deemed to be inappropriate, which they weren't. I don't skirt. I know compliance very well. I know what I can and cannot say, so I skirt that line. Anyway, let me bring up the chart here of Nvidia, and I'm going to go out to a weekly time frame, because when I first, well, not introduced, but when this was first pushed on me by Larry, was 2015, I believe. Oh my God. I mean, you look back at hindsight and you just got to shake your head. It was back here. It was split adjusted, just a few bucks. Where was it? Maybe it wasn't that. Yeah, it was back then. Larry's main argument as to why you would want to buy Nvidia. It wasn't 15. It had to be later than that, because I was talking about cryptocurrency, so it was probably late 2017. Anyway, his argument was he read this article about how Jensen Huang was really targeting the self-driving car industry, and Larry had this wide-eyed view of what could happen with self-driving cars, and I think Larry's right. Obviously, I wish I would have listened to him more back in the past and just loaded Nvidia. It'd be a totally different world for me today, but. That was his main premise as to why the growth for Nvidia was so strong, and one of the main reasons why he thought you got to buy Nvidia, because self-driving cars are coming, and Nvidia is going to be the main chip maker. And I was looking at it going, part of the reason also Nvidia is taking off is GPUs, and GPUs are used for cryptocurrency mining, which is super popular back in 2017 and 18 as well. But yeah, these numbers fantastic here when you look at their growth in the automotive sector. All in all. Again, the big red flags that I heard spoken about, and also looked at was just the delivery. Are they going to be able to meet demand for these new chip products that they have? And we heard about this at the previous announcement that they made last quarter, talking about how demand was incredible, but will we be able to get them there on time? It might be part of the issue, supply chain issues, particularly with China, Taiwan Semiconductor, etc. So all in all, you look at the chart of Nvidia, and I'll bring up the daily here. Great news. For those of you who are bullish on it, I still think the numbers today reflected that. They raised their forecast as well and gave pretty good guidance going forward. So the piece that could drag this down tomorrow is depending on what analysts say, right? The trend is still there. Things look fantastic. It's still moving to the upside. Any comments on Blackwell and overheating? I didn't look for those. They'd mentioned that yesterday, or there was an announcement made a couple days ago about that as well. I didn't see any pieces on that about the overheating. I mean, I know that it's an issue with the Blackwell chips, but how significant of an issue? Is it something that can be easily fixed? Does it delay production? That I don't know. It will turn positive during the show. It might be. Yeah, we're pretty close. We're at negative 0.32. I mean, you've got to look across the spectrum of all the publicly traded companies out there and say, what company is putting up numbers anywhere close to this? There aren't. I mean, it's just amazing growth. Now, if you look at something like a Microsoft, or you look at something like an Apple, you could make the argument that the growth rate is lower but much more predictable, right? Because you have time, you have all this historical precedent, you have a stable company with maybe not as much growth forecast. Nvidia is all about their growth forecast. So at this point, they're probably the apex predator of the growth stock category, because everyone's using their products, as we all know. And if that demand continues, then they'll continue to grow exponentially. But at what point does it slow down? That I don't know. Michael said I sold the 135 puts on Nvidia. I think you're fine with that. I mean, It depends on when they expire, but yeah, if you did it before this earnings announcement, that's a gutsy call there, Michael. Very gutsy. I wouldn't have done it before, but if you're happy owning at 135, great. Anything can happen between now and tomorrow morning, but I agree with Big Eb. I think by the time we finish this show today, we might see this thing in positive territory. Yeah, like 70% gross margin. I mean, why are they getting that? Why are they getting 70% gross margin? Because they're the only one that's got this stuff. At some point, competition might start to eat away at that, but at this point, they have just a clear runway in front of them. And really, it's up to them to make the mistakes. I mean, Nvidia is in the driver's seat right now. If they continue to deliver on their products like Blackwell and whatever the new generation of chip comes out after that, which will probably come next year, man, phenomenal. Just amazing. So if you're long, stick with it. I would just set a trailing stop on this bad boy. It's risky. I know we have some people here who own Nvidia, and they were talking about selling calls against this to generate even more income. I think it's a great strategy, but you run the risk of getting those shares taken away from you depending on what your strike price is, because this thing is just continuing to go and go and go and go and go. I'm surprised, like I say, we're not seeing a bigger move up in the after-hours session. And sometimes when that happens, I just question my logic. Am I missing something here that is fundamental to the growth of Nvidia? I wanted to be on the conference call. I think I saw it here. Someone was talking about the conference call at Robinhood. Where was that? Oliver, video call is on right now on Robinhood. Yeah, I thought about maybe trying to log in live and just do the show, but I don't like those shows where people do that. They log in live and then do color commentary over it. I don't know. I'll sell puts probably tomorrow. Yeah, I'm debating it as well. I did open up a new short. I sold some puts today, which I'll tell you guys about that trade in a little bit. All in all, just epic numbers from Nvidia, and just goes back to Jensen Huang being the king of kings right now. He is on top of the world and not getting any richer today. Not getting any richer. I keep rolling my calls up and out. Yeah, there you go. I did some Target puts today. You know what, Steve, I'll get to that. Yeah, I wasn't going to talk about their earnings, but Target now is down over 22% at one point. Last time I checked, they're down 22%. Right at 22% today. I actually looked at selling some puts on Target as well. No, I didn't. It's funny, I had it up, and I just felt like the premium wasn't worth it. I was looking, let me just pull up the chart here on the daily time frame so I can get my numbers right, because I remember there was I actually was looking at the 105s and going way out here towards this lower point, and I just don't want to catch that falling knife quite yet. We're in this open window of price activity. For those that listen to the podcast, I'm going all the way back into November of 2023 when we had this huge gap up, and now we're kind of in the middle of that gap. My gut would tell me this is probably going to continue down and close that gap, so I was looking at, I think I had the 105s or maybe the 110 strikes, and I just didn't feel the premium was worth it. Yeah, I took a different trade today, but it wasn't on Target. Let's see if you guys can guess what it was. We've talked about it actually over the past couple weeks here. It was not Boeing. I didn't do Boeing today. I trust me, every day I look, and if I get another beat down on Boeing, I may pull the trigger, but just still apprehensive with that $10 miss on earnings per share. That's just incredible. No, not Snow, but we will talk about Snow. So here's another one that, if you look back to this picture here, Snow was one of these big touted data cloud storage stuff and just cloud services that everyone was like, oh, it's going to be amazing. And I was talking about potentially shorting this thing because it got so hyped up. I thought it'd be under $100, and we got pretty dang close. We actually did break $100 to the downside on it, I think. Didn't we get below 100? Maybe we didn't ever get below 100. But anyway, if you look at this chart right now on Snow, if you ask me what to do here, I'm staying short. However, the fact that it flatlined between September and November is a good sign. It's stabilized, right around $110. So realistically, you're just looking for a break up above this most recent swing, which would be 127 as your entry point, and you notice that we broke above that last week. Now it's at 152. So this thing, might be a little bit late to jump on it now, but the numbers from Snow, which I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I'll bring them up here in just a second, at least the quick and dirty numbers. Snow's numbers were decent. They beat by 5 cents. Their product revenue was up 29% year over year. They came out at 20 cents per share. Awesome. Estimates were 15. Revenue rose 28% in the quarter. Their numbers look pretty darn good, and maybe it's that they finally turned the corner. Remember, I think they had a chief operating officer that was removed, and that caused a lot of consternation in that company. Here is their number. Let me get to snow on this bad boy. They came out, they beat by a nickel and up 18% according to this one, but right now it looked like about 15%. So, no, it wasn't on snow. I played around in snow in the past and lost some money on that one, but we're okay with that. Let's see. Big Eb says, yeah, I will look at Target tomorrow. If it starts dropping again, the premium will improve. Yeah, you know what? I thought the premium today would have been much higher. When you have something down 22%, especially something as big as Target, man, that would be that'd be a pain point. And you would think that people would just be starving for puts and been paying heavy premium for it. I just didn't see the premium being that elevated. So no, it wasn't on Qualcomm. It wasn't on Rivian. Rivian just we're looking kind of boring today. Not very happy about its movement. I really thought we'd start to see this creep up. Now, the last ones I sold were, was that Monday? I don't even remember what day it was. I did sell some for December, and I got 75 cents worth of premium. So we'll see. That might have been a little risky on my part, but no, nothing. No new on Rivian. I've already got a little too much exposure. You guys know I have 6,000 shares with 60 covered calls against it at the 11:50 strike expiring on Friday. Tomorrow. Wait, today's Wednesday. Yeah, no, it's expiring on Friday, so I got a couple more days. Here's the one that there were a couple I was looking at, but I looked at Nike. And if you look at Nike, they're in a really bad situation right now. They just the chart wise, they look absolutely atrocious. I mean, you're down like almost 30% in just the past couple of months. However, I do like the fact that historically, if we go back over the past 4 years, it hasn't been able to break these lows right around $71. So I got these $70 strikes. I did them on my, it's funny, this one's on my Schwab app, so I can actually just bring up the app on my phone. I did the $70 strikes on that bad boy and actually collected a lot of premium. I believe I collected $1.80 on that one. That's also expiring at the end of December. Now, December 20th. Now, I'm okay with this one. Let me just make sure I got the right strike. Let's see, Nike. Yeah, so I did the $70 strike. Let me get rid of this bad boy. It is a disaster. It is a disaster right now, but I think long term, I'm okay. I don't think Nike's going to go anywhere. I think that they just got to fix some issues they have, and they've already been beaten down pretty good, which is why I went further out of the money. There's your $70 strike way at the low point, and I collected $1.89. So I'm okay with that. That puts my dollar cost average price down at $68.11. So I'm using the historical demand zones here. It could be, Kenny. It could be Nike stock for Christmas. It could be, if you think about it, it's really not that far away from current price. But let's go down here. There's only one bad part to this. And if you notice their earnings are going to be on the 19th. So I will probably close this before the earnings, but I have until between today and the 20th, so 20 trading days, for it to drop about 5.5%. And if that does happen, that would be my, I would actually have made money at that point. If it gets down to this lower point, which was 68.11, it would have to fall roughly, come on, Merlin, roughly 7%. In the next 20 days to get there, which it could absolutely do. I just do believe it's going to have a little bit of an issue at this kind of low point we saw back here in June and July. So not the high probability trade, but one I think is not as high risk as it looks. Now you look at that long-term chart and it looks just atrocious. It's like, man, what is going on with Nike? So I took a stab at that one. Not a huge position. I have 20 contracts on, so that's 2,000 shares, so it's only 140,000 locked up. So not too big of exposure. That's the new one. Let's see. I will get my nephew some Nike stocks instead of shoes. Yeah, maybe. The sad part is the younger generation, and I'm sure I was in this category as well. When I was younger, if someone were to give me a share of Nike stock, I would probably be like, this gift sucks. I wouldn't even consider it. Oh, this is terrible. I want something tangible. When you're older, I think you look at it and go, yeah, I'd much rather have a share of Nike than a pair of shoes at $70. Sure, maybe that stock will go up over time, whereas my shoes are just going to wear down and get thrown away eventually and go to zero. The difference of being an adult and understanding money and finance. So that was pretty much it for my day. Just watching Rivian and Boeing, because I would like to get some Boeing, but just haven't jumped on that ship just quite yet. So let's run through the damage that was done here today. I'm going to start here with this Magnificent 7, just so you guys can see what really happened out there. It was, for the day, fairly ugly. You had Google, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia all down over half a percentage point. Same with Microsoft. Apple was up 0.32%, and then Meta taking the lead at 0.79. Now, Meta was an interesting one because we've drawn out this little yellow box on this chart. And the belief was, if we get a close down below that, you're probably going to see some more downside movement. We had one day, that was Friday, where Meta broke it, and now it's bouncing back up. So the question I have, and this is for me, I mean, you guys can question yourself on this one as well, but I talk to myself quite a bit. When you break a supply zone to the upside, typically you get a surge up, then a retest of the break, and then if it holds, a nice rally up. The question here is, does Meta follow that same pattern, but to the downside? Meaning, we had a convincing break, now it retested. Does it now sell off from this point? I mean, even though it was up 0.79% on the day, it was a little bit of a break up into that sideways action yet again. Look at Meta at 540 area as a potential buy point. I mean, the trend is still up. Of course, what happened with Nvidia today, I think and Snowflake, even though Snowflake's less than $1 billion of revenue, I still think that paints the picture of positive for tech, positive for AI, and I think anybody tangentially attached to AI is going to get a bump from what happened with Nvidia, Snowflake. Target's retail sales numbers not helping so much. That is pretty surprising, but all in all, Palo Alto Networks, yeah. Palo Alto missed. Let's go Palo Alto next. PNW. Let's go show you their earnings as well. So I'm sorry, they beat earnings, but they lowered their forecast. So you had 148 was their estimate. They came out at 156. They beat by 8 cents, a little bit more than Nvidia beat by, and they're down 5% on the day. So there's your Palo Alto Networks. Again, right now they're at 371, which is this horizontal blue line. From a fill the gap perspective, we're not quite there yet. 366 would be about the closing point of that gap. I did get a hefty amount of Nike, same as Kenny. You're long on it, or you're selling puts and hopefully you're gonna just collect premium, and if it gets to you, own it. 2-for-1 stocks. Oh, I didn't see that. That'd be a big one. Interesting. I did not know they would do a 2-for-1 stock split. It's kind of strange. Why do a 2-for-1? Go for a 10-to-1. You go for 10-to-1, your stock's $39, and all of a sudden, all the Robinhood people can now buy a whole share because they got a $39 paycheck. Yeah, a little Robinhood. Yeah, let's go Robinhood. So a 2-for-1 split, what would that do? As you guys know, my belief, and I've been able to back this up with a majority of stocks that announce splits, is typically when you have a stock split, what you get is a chart that looks like this. And do you know the day on that one, Big Ed, when they announced their split for? I don't see it on the chart yet. So typically, once you make an announcement like that, what you get is it just feels like it just goes up for quite a while, up until the day of expiration or exercise, and then the day that it exercises, it'll just start to just sell off because there's this expectation of, I will have twice as many shares on this day as before. Yeah, I missed that too. They don't stop Starbucks for the day. They have to skip Starbucks for the day. Oh man, picking on the younger generation. It's sad because I have to pick on the younger generation now because I'm just old. That's it. It's the reality of it. I'm envious. I'd like to be back in my 20s and know what I know now. Man, it'd be a totally different ballgame. It's funny, everyone always you get that question all the time. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? And you get all these mixed answers. Oh, I would have asked, marry Sue out, or, I would have done this differently. Mine's easy. I would have taken a $100 bill in 2009 and I would have bought Bitcoin. Done. End of story. I'd be worth tens of millions of dollars with a $100 bill. Anyway, that's it. It's the only thing I would go back and tell myself. Forget everything else. So depending, Mark, you don't want to live in your 20s again? I don't know if I want to live in my 20s in this generation. I'm getting there, Lori. I might look young. I'm old. I think I look back at how I grew up versus the kids that grew up today. It's crazy. I went to a friend's gathering this weekend to watch the fights, and all the dads had their kids' location on their phone. They're just tracking their kids. My parents had no way of tracking me. They had no idea where I was. It was just, hey, if he gets in trouble, he gets in trouble. Let's trust him to do the right thing and know where he's going to be a good kid. For the most part, I was. Of course, like everybody, I did some bad stuff along the way. Luckily, one of my good friends, my good friend's dad, who was a troublemaker, he used to always say, it's not about doing right or doing wrong. It's about not getting caught doing wrong. And I went, wow, that's an interesting way to put it. Have you been in jail, sir? Yeah, I had a Boys and Girls Club card and a house key on a shoelace around my neck, and that's pretty much what my childhood was. I'll just be home by dark. And if I wasn't home by dark, no big worry, I'd get there. They trusted me. Yeah, now teenagers are tracked by everybody, everything. Can't have the same kind of fun. Doorbell ditching. No one can doorbell ditch anymore. I can't egg houses. Although they TP my neighborhood all the time, I'm the only house that hasn't been TP'd. Either I'm really cool, or they know I'm just going to come after them and torture them. Anyway. You're a little older than my kids. I should have bought back Nvidia back in 2014 and also Bitcoin too. Nvidia would be great, but I tell you what, nothing has the compound rate of return ever that Bitcoin does. The compounding rate of return, especially where it's going to be in the future, phenomenal. Okay, so let me. I start off with just kind of your Magnificent Seven here, and just looking at the damage. It was a good tech hit today. I think that might change tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot of positive spins on Snowflake, a lot of positive talk track about Nvidia, and that should boost this even higher and maybe maintain the stellar number one most valuable company in the United States. You're known as the Halloween guy. I am. Definitely known as the Halloween guy in my neighborhood. I'm that guy. So let's work our way from bottom to top here on our top seven. You had today the dollar index move back up a little bit. Your crude oil fell 0.71%. I still am holding on to my belief that this, from a technical perspective, it just looks like it's breaking lower. It has not, but I think you guys can all see it there. Let me get rid of all these lines. I've got way too many lines on this chart, but you can see that it's making lower highs, and the lows are remaining right around the same, right around the 65, maybe to get down to 64 mark. It just feels like weakness and more weakness and more weakness. Now, this could all change next year. When Trump takes office, it was interesting seeing him sit next to, a pretty prominent oil minister from the Middle East. I have a feeling of a lot of deals will be made to push the price of oil down, and that maybe what we're seeing is here more anticipation of that, but it just keeps getting lower and lower and lower. Market says $50 oil coming. Well, let's mark out that $50 level and say, in just high level, would that be an insane hypothesis or not? Let me bring up a line here. So let's go out and look at this. Come on. And I'll put 50 on here. Okay, so there's your $50 line. I've got two red lines on your screen. Let's get rid of that blip there. Two red lines on your screen, and the bottom one representing 50. The top one is right around, I'll put 64. It's really the dead low from May 4th of this year, or last year, excuse me. But I'll put 64 because I just like the even number. So I've got $50 and $64. Realistically, I just want to see how far from current price does it have to drop to get to the dead lows that we haven't seen, since 2022. That would have to fall another 6.94%. As we all know, oil falling 6.94%, that's easy, right? No stress there for that one happening. Now, what if we zoom out a little bit more and say, what's the probability of it getting all the way down to 50? That's a fall of 27%. Now, I do think it's possible, and I would love to see it. Part of me feels like it's not going to happen under the Biden administration. At this point, you've lost the election. What do you care? Why bother? It might be the attitude from Biden and the current administration. We're out. The Dems lost. We lost the House. We lost the Senate. It's like, just throw your arms up and just screw it, right? If you look at $50 price of oil, I think it's definitely doable. Definitely doable. However, there's a big factor here, which is, if you look at the price of Nvidia and you go, oh, Nvidia getting to 130. Well, that number of 130 or 120 or 100 or $50 doesn't necessarily impact the company itself. I mean, it depends how much, if they own shares of their own company. But if you look at something like oil, if oil drops from $68, which is at today, down to 50, now you have to take into consideration the producers that are taking this commodity out of the ground and the cost there. at 50, it might start to choke out the profits from some companies. It may actually be below the extraction point for oil. Now, I'm not an oil expert. I know John Rowland is certainly much better than me at this. He's way better. He's the master. I forgot the number he was talking. It was like $28 or 25 or something, but that was a couple years back. Those costs are getting higher because of inflationary pressures for sure. So once we start to get prices down to 50, you may start to see suppliers and producers cut production, and that could drive prices back up. So at some point, there will be a floor in oil. I don't know where that floor is. We make the arguments that, electric vehicles are eating so much of the oil consumption, right? It's killing petroleum. I don't agree with that. I think that it's still there. Global demand, and a lot of people focusing on China and their expansion. I think 50 is definitely a possibility, particularly if we get below 64. If we close below 64, I just think, in my gut, I'm looking at January. So what do we got? About 60 days from today. Today is the what the heck's the day? It's the 20th of November. So January 20th of 2025, we will get a new president, and that's going to be right about here. So I have this I feel pretty confident that Trump's going to make some pretty aggressive deals to push oil prices lower. However, when you remove the incentives for EVs and take away some of the perks for green energy, solar, and alternative energies, that could bring more demand into oil. So we'll look at getting increased production with more, drillers and frackers here in the United States, but demand may also increase. So even though we have more supply, we might have higher demand. Again, these are all speculative pieces. I don't know what the future holds. I wish I did. It'd be a totally different world. But that's kind of how I look at it, Margaret. I do think 50 is a possibility, but the lower that this goes, the more likely it's going to bounce back up. I'd like to know what the cost to extract a barrel of oil is here in the United States. That would be kind of important to know, because if it ever got to that number, just start buying it. You guys might remember back here, were we doing this show? When was this? Yeah, when we had this negative $40 print on oil, I forgot who we were talking about. So, look, if this thing gets below 20, I'm buying every oil product I can get my hands on, because I seem to remember John Rowland telling me it was like 25 or $28 back here. So, yeah, I think if you got below 50, I think that 50 is a good buy point for oil, and I think demand's going to increase as soon as Trump takes office, because again, He's made it clear that he's going to crack down on some of the perks that have been made for EV companies and push more for fossil fuels, more drilling, open it up. Less regulation will lower extraction costs, for sure. Absolutely. That will absolutely, if you have, and, my guess is you'll get rid of government agencies as well, which may be overseeing some of these regulations. So not only do you get less regulations, but the agencies, which could be going out to these oil fields to make sure that they're safe and they're doing what they say they're supposed to do, could go away. Thank you, Steve. Google says it's $28 to extract. Okay. That makes sense. And yeah, remember John was like 23, 25, 28, somewhere in there. So they're still making a profit, but just keep in mind also, as another play, if we do see oil drop down to $50, you may want to think about shorting Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil. Google says Saudi is 10. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because the Saudis could really, if they wanted to, just shut us out of the oil business. They could drop the price of oil down to, $20 a barrel and just kill all production in the United States. They could. I remember hearing that as well. Musk has funny tweets. And Musk is now, I'm like, how do you get any work done? You seem like you're the most prolific businessman on the planet, with the Boring Company and OpenAI and Neuralink and Tesla and SpaceX, and you're flying all over the world and going to MMA fights, yet that guy tweets more in the last week than I have in my entire time on Twitter. It's just insane. And they are pretty funny. He has been going after it. I don't know if you guys saw, I hope that you saw it. Maybe I'll post a link to it. Or I could play the video. I think I could possibly get in trouble for playing the video. Did you guys see the video that he did with Milton Friedman that Musk posted about Milton Friedman? If he did, it might be too long. It's 4 minutes, but I want you guys to see this one. It's great. It's a great video. And basically what he's doing is, he sleeps 4 hours a day. No, not the 10 camels. The video was fantastic because it broke down Milton Friedman's, who's a great economist, viewpoints of, viewpoints of government and government offices. And basically this guy interviewed him and said, here it is. I don't know how I get this link to you.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? Keep them or above?
Let me see if I can get this here. All right, so there you go. Just bookmark that one. I think that this will take you to it. And basically, it's some guy going thumbs up or thumb down. Here's 14 government offices. Do we keep it or do we get rid of it? And it was rapid fire. It's 4 minutes and 20 seconds long. Convenient, 4:20 again. But, if you think about the logic behind getting rid of some of these departments, we can see some tremendous cutting. Now, remember, Musk is not an official government office. He won't be. This Doge thing is not an official government office. It's just something that's kind of created to give recommendations. Now, will Trump cut all the things that Musk says? Not a chance. There's no way. I'm pretty sure Musk's going to go, you've got 50,000 different positions. 30,000 can go. 40,000 can go. That's not going to happen. Yeah, right? It did make Milton Friedman look like a genius. It was actually a really great video. I think you guys will really enjoy that one, especially given what's going on. I mean, look, we're entering into a period that could be a complete circus. Yeah, did you guys see who got selected to be the head of education, the Department of Education, to lead the Department of Education? I just shaking my head like, how does this happen? How about somebody with an education background, somebody who works with children, understands the process, works with schools? They got Vince McMahon, Vince McMahon's wife, the co-founder, co-owner of the WWF, World Wrestling Federation, World WWE. Like, what? Are you kidding me? You have wrestling, which is fake scripted BS. It's show. It's fun. It's great to watch. But I don't want that being the director of our education for our country. Come on, man. Come on. You can do better than that, Donald. You can do better than that. Oh, man. You can't do much worse. True. Oh, I know. It is. It really is kind of funny. Yeah. It just. Oh well, guys. We can all just sit back and just enjoy the show. It's gonna be 4 years of very interesting appointments, and we'll see. Let's hope that it takes us to a better place. I don't know. All right, what do we got? I did the Nvidia. We talked about. I did talk about Snowflake very briefly. It looks good to me. I like their turnaround. I think that Snowflake could be starting actually a pretty nice uptrend here. So that's another one that if you're going directional, I think Snowflake may have turned the corner on their troubles. They raised their forecast. They had pretty decent numbers. And given the fact this thing was at the beginning of the year over $250 or $240, pretty impressive. But didn't Trump say he'd go to axe the Department of Education? I don't know if he said that, Liz. I know that if you look at Milton Friedman's commentary, he said get rid of the Department of Education. Just get rid of it. And I don't know. I think that you need to have some guidelines and you need to have some things. Otherwise, we could have anarchy in our schools as far as what's being taught, and might make things even worse. Now, I don't know. I'm not a big politician person, but I would think that some of these departments are kind of like a franchise corporate headquarters, right? So if I'm McDonald's, I can't just say, hey, we're going to remove all the corporate rules and you guys run your franchises any way you see fit. You would have no standardization. McDonald's would be completely different everywhere you went. And I would assume that part of the job of education, the Department of Education, is to make sure that we have standard curriculum, content, and teaching methods taught across the United States so that we all have the same, not same level of intellect, but also at least the same foundation of education understanding, as opposed to some school doing some weird cockamamie thing they have no idea where it even came from. I look at the new math rules. I'm sure some of you guys have kids. I'm sure some of you have kids. The new way that they do math, like I'm a math person. I'm a numbers guy. I'm very quick with numbers typically. And I look at how they're supposed to calculate math now. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. This system is it's harder. You're making it way worse. Department of Education didn't exist until oh, really? Good to know, Barry. I did not know that. Not at all. What kind of pathetic system steals 12 years of a person's life to teach a person to read? Yeah, there's a lot of more important things. The book that I've been writing forever, which I have been working on, I will get it done at some point, just deals so much with personal finance. And, if I had to go back and have the job as the Department of Education for the government, I'd say, look, we don't need to talk about how to calculate a parabola. None of you in here have used how to capitalize, how to calculate a parabola, unless you're hired at math. You're going to college to get a PhD in mathematics or rocket science, but that doesn't need to be high school. What needs to be high school is, here's how you balance a checkbook. Here's how you live your life. Here's how money works. Here's, English and communication and social skills. And, I think there needs to be a class on people skills and how you treat your fellow human being, because that seems to be lost as well. But here we are. Education standards are set by the state, though, aren't they? Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem. Maybe not part of the problem. I mean, that would encourage you to go move to different states if you felt a different teaching system was better for your child. Personal finance should be mandatory in high school, no doubt. Absolutely. I mean, I think I've mentioned this before. The greatest class that I ever took, and I remember it vividly. It's like one of the only things about all my education that I remember is To Sir with Love. A guy named Mr. Austin. And I think I've told you this, but we walked into class one day. This is 5th grade, mind you, 5th grade. We walked in, and on the corner of his desk was a stack of paper. He said, everybody grab 3 or 4 pieces of paper off the corner of my desk. So we bring them back, and we look at them. I've never seen this thing before. I don't know what it is. And in that paper was a check. He had photocopied a check, taken off his personal information, and he showed us, here's where your personal information goes, your name, address, etc. Here's your account number. Here's the ABA routing number. Here's how you write a check. And he explained how a checkbook works. Now, I know you millennials are going, what's a check? I get it. He had us write checks out so we knew how to write check properly for $5 for, this book we had to go buy from the library. And it was awesome. I remember it vividly because then he made us go and balance our checkbook. I didn't have anything like that in high school. That was elementary school. Crazy. It should be there from the very, 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 very early days of a young man or woman's life, or non-binary individual, whatever. What we should all know, the basics of money, just the way it should go. That movie as no. How to make money with money. That'd be a course, right? I mean, that's, if you think about it, that's essentially what Trading Academy is trying to convey, is like, take money and let's make money with money. It takes money to make money, right? Anyway, let me go off topic. I went off topic there. So I want to run through our top 8. We started with crude oil, which still not feeling very confident on it. That brought up the $50 barrel target, or at least thought of maybe $50. I think that's definitely possible, but we've got to get below 64, right? It feels like it's got this invisible floor that's just holding it above $64. Your NASDAQ, nothing to speak of here. Still a great trend. We'll see if the Nvidia pop pushes us up tomorrow. Same thing with the S&P. We had open and closes right at the same prices, so really nothing exciting for our markets today. The 10-year, no real change. Same with the Russell. Really kind of a boring day. I was expecting this to have huge impacts after the market closed today, but we're not seeing it. This one is probably the biggest story of the day, which is the dollar index, up 0.47%. So yesterday we had a slight down day. Today, moving to the upside. 106.65 right now. I think 107 is in play, possibly even by Friday. And that could be bad for markets. Gold, 0.79% pop today. No big deal. We'd have that hammer formation, great follow through, and looks like we're going to probably rally back up to 2,700 on gold. And finally, B to the T to the C. Bitcoin, all-time high yet again intraday today. The futures markets hit a high price of 95,565, but I don't look at the futures. I like to look at the spot price. Your spot price hit 94,942. Love it. And a lot of crypto, just showing extreme volatility across the board, as usual. No big surprise there. So Bitcoin, 1.93% move up today. And I think that is going to wrap it up for our segment today. Let me go and show your economic calendar for tomorrow. Make sure I get this all set up here. Oh, no, I want the week. So here's your Wednesday data. On the grand scheme of things, nothing was really that dramatic here today. We had a mild crude oil inventories number and some FOMC members speaking. Tomorrow, we do have our unemployment claims number, which of course comes out every Thursday, but we have a lot more real estate stuff to talk about. You have existing home sales. Remember we talked about construction and spending and other homes data on Monday. Well, we've got existing home sales. That's going to be 30 minutes into the trading day tomorrow. They're expecting existing home sales to move up just a little bit, so keep your eye on that one. You also have the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. You have CB Leading Index, natural gas storage, and more members of our FOMC will be speaking tomorrow. On that earnings front, we do have a couple of earnings as well, and that will be after market close for Intuit. You have John Deere, which will be before market open, and then retailers. You've got Ross Stores and Baidu reporting, as well as Network Appliances, Warner Music Group, and that was pretty much it. So there we go. All right, that's going to do it for me, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I'm bummed that Nvidia didn't have as big of a move, but let's see. Did it in fact close up, right? We talked maybe it would be positive by the end of the show. Sorry, Big Eb. Didn't happen. We're not quite there yet. It's actually selling off a little bit. We're down 1.54%, so did not get into positive territory yet. I do think tomorrow will probably be a pretty decent day. So thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic remainder of your day. If you got anything that you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show for Thursday, email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com, or put your comments down below any of my YouTube videos, and I will get to those tomorrow. Take care, everyone.